Socialism envisions a classless society, the abolition of the oppressor versus oppressed dynamic, a society where those who work the means of production own and control the means of production, a society free from harsh economic hierarchies and the repression of the masses. That is the socialist vision. So why are so-called socialist countries so repressive? Why are socialist regimes so repressive and hierarchical? Why have socialist states been defined by rigid class hierarchies and the oppression of the masses? These are very good questions. I think the explanation is relatively simple. Only the most brutal and ruthless socialist regimes survive. Amidst the chaos and conflict of a revolution, the most brutal and ruthless group of people will prevail. Nice, decent people do not do very well in such violent, brutal conditions. In the aftermath of such bloodshed, the person who sits at the top is the one who mastered it. This is one of the big issues with a revolution as a means of reaching socialism. Revolution creates conditions that automatically privilege whichever group is the most brutal and ruthless. If you have moral principles, rising to the top amidst such brutal conditions is almost impossible. And so socialist regimes born out of a revolution inevitably end up being brutal and ruthless, because they were born from conditions that demanded these traits. I have repeated myself enough, but I hope my point is understood. This is a very important issue. Personally, I dislike the idea of a revolution largely for this reason, and for others too. Revolution causes economic disorder and mass death. Revolution is often a hideous thing. Sometimes it may be a necessary evil, but only in extreme circumstances where one is facing an evil regime and there is no other option. In our modern society, revolution is largely undesirable. It will probably never happen because most people are too materially comfortable to give everything up fighting in the streets. For many people, poverty is often preferable to a bloody death in the street, which is what revolution entails. And revolution creates devastating political and economic consequences that ruin many lives. Not to mention the difficulty of staging a successful revolution in our modern age. In the age of mass surveillance and modern weaponry. Back in the day it was rifles versus rifles. Now it is rifles versus tanks and fighter jets. Advocates of a revolution like to claim that reform has never achieved anything. But what has revolution achieved? A handful of blood-soaked dictatorships that tainted the idea of socialism for decades. To return to my point, why are socialist regimes authoritarian? I have two more explanations. Authoritarian socialist regimes are the only ones that survive. Not just in the context of a revolution. Look at examples of democratically elected socialists. Salvador Allende from Chile, for example. His government was overthrown. Many people hate socialism. They want to destroy socialist regimes. Highly authoritarian socialist regimes are more likely to survive these efforts. Soon the world is full of authoritarian socialist regimes because they are the only ones that manage to survive. I think that this offers a strong explanation. Most socialist regimes are authoritarian because the ones that are not do not last very long. Of course, this does not justify the authoritarianism. It should also be noted that dictators may benefit from calling their regime socialist, as this allows them to better identify with the people. This helps to compensate for the lack of democracy. This partially satisfies populist tendencies. So many authoritarians may call themselves socialist and pretend to be socialist because doing so is politically advantageous. During the Cold War, doing so was also advantageous because it could improve your relationship with the Soviet Union. This could be economically beneficial, and it could also give you access to Soviet weaponry. These factors are worth taking into account. To conclude, I believe in market socialism. I believe in a libertarian, democratic form of socialism. I think that such a thing is possible, but only if we proceed with caution. We must never forget that some of our worst enemies are within our movement. They wave our flags and carry our banners. And when we are on the cusp of victory, they condemn us to decades of defeat. But the socialist spirit lives on. And if we act wisely, perhaps one day it will prevail.